Hey everybody, today I'm going to review RIDGID's brand new Gen 5X brushless 7 1/4 inch dual bevel sliding compound miter saw. This is the newest tool in their Gen 5X lineup. It's completely cordless and it only takes one 18-volt battery pack in order to operate it. The 7 1/4 inch blade is the standard size with really any circular saw, and that means that the same blade that will fit on your circular saw will fit on here. They're very easy to find and they're very cheap to replace. Now, because there's not a lot of mass behind a 7 1/4 inch blade compared to, let's say, a 10 or a 12 inch blade, it means that the motor is going to be very efficient and that battery pack is going to last for a very long time. So if you're a carpenter or maybe even a DIYer and you don't have the need for extreme cut capacities, this one can still cross cut a 2x8 or cut a 45 into a 2x6, and it can really get the job done most of the time. Now, if you are using much larger boards, this would not be ideal, but because it is so lightweight and portable, if you're installing trim or maybe even replacing boards on your deck, it would be the one to reach for. So what I want to do in this video is go over all the different features that they have built into this. We're going to see exactly how it operates, and then we're going to do extensive runtime and performance testing, and you'll see firsthand the type of job that it's going to do for you. The battery that's included with the saw is the 5 amp hour high capacity version for maximum power and runtime, and it has their standard slide rail system. This same pack will work on any of the other RIDGID 18-volt tools. You'll line it up, slide it into place, and when you hear the click, it's going to be locked in and ready to go. Now, because this is a RIDGID 18-volt tool, you don't have to use the high-capacity version. And let's say you have a compact pack, which would go on one of the small drills. You can line that up, click it into place, and it's going to power the saw exactly the same way. The saw has a miter angle of a maximum of 48 degrees to the left and to the right. There's positive stops at 0 degrees, 15 degrees, 22.5 degrees, 31.6 degrees, and also 45 degrees. To override this last setting and achieve the maximum 48 degrees, you'll just press down this button, slide it all the way to the end, and then to lock it in any position along the way, you'll want to take this front little lever and press that down. You'll always want to have this down before you make a cut so nothing moves on you. On the rear of the saw is going to be a large knob that will allow you to set your bevel. Right now it's at 0 degrees, and because this is a dual beveling saw, it will bevel to the left and to the right. It has a maximum bevel in each direction of 48 degrees, with positive stop settings on both sides of 33.9, 45, and 48 degrees. All you have to do is loosen this up. You can then rotate it very easily. And then to go to the opposite direction, you will want to pull out on this little tab that's going to override the stop at 0 degrees, allowing you to bevel in the opposite direction. What you'll then do when you get your correct bevel is lock this knob back down, and then you can very quickly and easily make your cut. One of the best features of this saw is going to be the lighting system that will allow you to line up your cut line. Unlike a standard LED or even a laser, this one projects a line that will show you exactly where you are going to cut. And it does this by having two different LEDs shining on either side of the blade. It's two different colors of light, and where they meet you'll see a shadow line, and where that line is exactly where the blade is going to intersect the board. If we take a look at this board, I went ahead and marked a line that I want to cut on it. And if you see right now, no LED is activated, and we would have to just line it up like we normally would with a standard miter saw. However, if we press the LED button in order to activate the LED, you'll notice the two different colors of LEDs now shining on the board. One is on the right, one is on the left, and where they meet, you can notice a very distinct shadow line. We'll line that line up with our marked line across the board, and when we pull on the trigger, we'll cut directly through the center of our marked line. The light will be activated one of two ways. Now, before I made that cut, rather than pressing on the trigger, which would light up the light the entire time we were making a cut, I didn't want the blade to spin. So rather than pressing on the trigger, I just pressed on the light button. This will activate that LED, showing us exactly what the cut path will be, without activating the saw or spinning the blade. Included with the saw is a hold down clamp. This will install on the left or right hand side directly behind the fence. The post is friction fit. It's going to slide in place. And then this portion you'll slide down against your workpiece. Now this board would not be safe to cut with my hand because I would have to hold my hand too close to the blade. But with the hold down clamp we can slide it down, we can twist it tight, forcing the screw in the base plate against the material and against the table. Now everything is secure and I can make my cut with my hands safely out of the way. There's two different options for dust collection. You can use the included dust bag plugged on the rear of the unit to collect most of the major dust. But as you're using this, it's going to fill up rather quickly, and then eventually this little port's going to get completely clogged up, causing all the dust to just blow everywhere. For excellent dust collection, you're better off using a wet dry vac or even a dust extractor, using a 1 1/4 inch hose. That's going to plug right in that same exact port, creating suction the entire time you're using the saw, completely removing the dust and keeping it to a bare minimum. So what I'm going to do now are two different cuts, the first using a dust extractor and the second cut using just the dust bag. Looking at them side by side, you'll see that, let's say if you're in an indoor setting, why this would be a much better option, and it's going to keep everything a lot cleaner. Now removing that hose, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the included dust bag, and we'll make an identical cut and take a look at how much more dust escapes into the room. Unlike other saws that you might already own, this one has an upgraded feature known as an electric brake. That's a safety mechanism that's built in, and as soon as we release the trigger after we're done making a cut, the blade is going to stop very quickly. This makes it a lot safer to use. You don't run the risk of really cutting yourself accidentally or having material go flying across the room because that blade would still be spinning when you are done making a cut. To show you exactly what I mean by that, we're going to cut through this 2x4 and just take a look at the blade and watch how fast it stops when I release the trigger. Almost instantly it comes to a stop, and we don't have to wait for it to slow down on its own because the motor is going to stop it automatically due to that electric brake. When we take a look at cut capacities, it can cross-cut a 2x8. And cut a 45 through a 2x6. If you use the saw to cut crown molding, rather than use a special jig or cut it nested against the fence, you can lay it flat on the table, and if you just follow the guide that's built into the base, it will tell you the correct miter as well as bevel that you need to set in order to cut it correctly the first time. So although this one will not have the same massive cut capacities as a very large corded 10 or 12 inch sliding compound miter saw, it's also a lot more compact and lightweight. So if you have to carry this to a customer's house and you don't need the cut capacities that this very large saw would give you, just plugging in a battery pack would probably be a lot better way to go. And when you do need to carry it around, that's very easy to do because they have 3 different handles built in. One at the top and then one at the left and right hand side of the table. This will allow you to carry it horizontally or vertically very easily. And with the side handles, it will allow you to really carry it like you would a suitcase. It will hang by your side, and because it is only 24 pounds, moving it around is very easy. So let's say you're loading or unloading it out of your truck, or let's say you just want to click it onto the miter saw workstation. It only takes a few seconds and it is extremely lightweight. Before you transport or store the saw, there's 3 things that you'll always want to do. The first is to remove the battery pack. That way it won't accidentally cut on if you happen to hit the trigger and you won't hurt yourself. The second thing you want to do is lock the blade in the down position by lowering it down and pressing in on this black pin that's just beside the carrying handle. Now if you notice, it can still slide back and forth, so we're also going to lock the slide. On the slide mechanism, there's a large thumb wheel. We'll go ahead and lock that down. It will lock it in place, and now everything's secure and safe to move. A very useful feature will be the depth setting. Now with this pressed all the way to the right, it will allow the blade to extend down below the surface of the table, allowing us to cleanly cut through a board. But if we want to set a specific depth and we don't want to cut all the way through a board, let's say to create a dado through the center of a board, we can take this, slide it over, and then the depth screw is actually going to hit that. That will prevent the blade from going all the way down. It will allow us to make repeated cuts at the same depth without making any more adjustments. To show you exactly how this works, I'm going to leave it at this setting, and then we're going to make a dado cut through a 2x4. So rather than cut all the way through this 2x4, we're going to make repeated cuts over and over until we remove this portion that I've marked out. This is roughly about 1 inch wide, and it should take us a minute or so to complete. Now if you notice, the blade did not extend all the way back because it is raised up off the deck. And this means that we'll need to go ahead and put a spacer in between the fence and the board to bring it out roughly about 1.5 inches. At that point, it will cut barely into the sacrificial fence, and it will cut all the way through this 2x4 that we'll want to make our dado cut through. Now using another board to extend that fence out, we can make our dado cuts over and over again until we clear out this entire area. And even though the blade is lifted up, we will be able to extend all the way through the board. Now for a runtime test, I have a fully charged 5 amp hour battery pack. I just put a brand new Diablo blade on it, and we're going to see how many cuts through a standard 2x4 can get on just one charge. $286 cuts through a standard 2x4 on one 5 amp hour battery charge. So now you've seen RIDGID's brand new Gen5X brushless 7¼ inch dual bevel sliding compound miter saw. Now this is not going to have the same cut capacities as a larger 10 or 12 inch miter saw, but it's extremely lightweight, It's very easy to carry around because of the different handle designs that they have built in. And because it does only weigh 24 pounds versus, let's say, 50 or 60 pounds for a larger corded saw, if you just have to do some cuts, if you're framing up a wall or maybe installing trim, this would be an ideal choice. Now remember its limitations. It can only cross-cut a 2x8 or do a 45 through a 2x6. So if you have boards that are larger than that, you would need to go with a larger option. But many times, if you're just framing up something, maybe finishing a deck, or putting trim in a house, you don't need anything larger than that. And when using a very large, high capacity, 5 amp hour pack, we got a tremendous amount of work done on just one charge. With almost 300 cuts through a 2x4, even if you are using this as, let's say, your primary saw on a job site, most likely one battery pack should last you all day long. And because it is using standard 7¼ inch circular saw blades, they're very easy to find and they're extremely cheap to replace. Now, as you can see, I have it mounted on the RIDGID miter saw stand, but because of the hole design on this, if you have a different brand, it would attach exactly the same way, and it does set everything up and give you a good working height, and it might be something you want to pick up along with this saw. Now lastly, because this is a RIDGID power tool, it is covered by their lifetime service agreement. And as long as you register it within 90 days of purchase, you'll qualify for that, and it means that you'll get free batteries, free parts, and free service for life. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.